Hi, in this lecture what I want to do is just describe the basic Colonel Blotto game and then give you a sense of some of the main results from the game. So here's how the game works. Colonel Blotto, again, is this game of strategic mismatch. I've got a bunch of troops, you've got a bunch of troops, we've got to decide where to allocate them across fronts. Whoever's got the most troops on a front is going to win. So how do we formalize that? We do it as follows. We construct a game. The game has the following assumptions. There's two players, each one has T troops. So we're going to start out by assuming we've got the same number of troops. There's N fronts, so these are the places where we can put our troops. And we're going to assume that T is large relative to N. So when you see these two greater than signs, that means T is a lot bigger than N. So if we have 10 fronts, we have thousands of troops. Now the action I'm going to take, my strategy in this game, is going to be to allocate my troops across those fronts. So how many troops do I put on each of those fronts? And we determine the winner of the game by just sort of counting up who wins each front. So it's the number of fronts won. So if I have more troops on a front, I win. If you have more troops on a front, you win. That's it. Really simple game. It turns out, sort of a complicated game. Now it's complicated for the following reason. It's zero sum. So zero sum games mean that there's one person gets, in this case, +1, the winner. The other person gets -1. So when I add those up, they get 0. So there's someone who wins, someone who loses. If you're in a game where there's someone who wins, someone who loses, it's naturally going to be really competitive. Because suppose you're at some sort of equilibrium. In that equilibrium, one player is going to be winning, one player is going to be losing, which means the player who's losing is going to try and do something different so that they don't lose. If you talk to successful business people, one thing that you'll frequently hear from them is they'll say, stay out of zero-sum games. The reason you want to stay out of zero-sum games is pretty straightforward. You've got to work really, really hard, and at best, you're going to break even because somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. You'd rather be in a game that's sort of positive sum, where everybody can win. So zero-sum games, by their nature, tend to be pretty darn competitive. We'll see that's going to definitely be the case of Blotto. So again, here's the example. Let's suppose we got T's 100, so each person's got 100 troops, and there's 3 fronts. So I'll be player 1. I'm player 1, and I say, well, the obvious thing to do is to evenly allocate my troops across the 3 fronts. So I'll do 33, 33, 33. I've got 1 left over, so I'll put that on front 1. Now you're sitting there, you're thinking, okay, I'm player 2. You're player 2, and you're thinking, okay, well, what should I do? Well, I'm going to think that Scott did the obvious thing, which was to put a third, a third, a third. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sacrifice 1 front. I'm going to sacrifice this 3rd front and only put 20 troops there. And I'm going to put 40 troops on each of these other 2 fronts. And by putting 40 troops on each of these other 2 fronts, I'm going to win each of those fronts. That's what you're thinking. So you're going to win those fronts, whereas I'm only going to win front number 3. So the point is you're going to win 2, I'll win 1, so you're the winner of the game. Player 2 wins. So if you think about Colonel Blotto, what you see is equally allocating your troops doesn't make a lot of sense because somebody can beat it. So you need a better strategy. Well, here's the problem. Any strategy can be defeated. Let's see why. Let's go back. So here's the first case. I did 34, 33, 33. You did 40, 40, 20. So you beat me. So we know that 34, 33, 33 can get beat. What about 40, 40, 20? So suppose now we're going to play again, and I know, boy, you beat me with 40, 40, 20, and I think that you think that, well, you're just going to keep the same strategy because it worked before. Well, what I could do is I could put 30 here, so I win there, and 50 here, and then put 20 there. So I do 20, 50, 30. So I beat you. Well, how could you beat my 20, 50, 30? Well, you could say, well, why don't I just go 50, 0, 50, and you'd beat me. So you can see is any position can be defeated, and there's no real obvious best strategy to play. Here's another insight about Blotto. You don't need all of your troops to win. So let's go back and look at this example again. You're at 40, 40, 20. I could beat you with 62 troops. I could have 41, 21, and 0. So even though we both have 100 troops, I wouldn't need a full 100 troops to beat you. It's another sort of interesting insight. So you think about this Blotto game, you realize it's fairly complicated, and it's all about these strategic mismatches and where you allocate your troops. Anything can be defeated, and you can beat something without even using all your troops. So what happens in this game? Is it an equilibrium? Is it a cycle? Are we going to alternate? Is it going to be complex? Or is it going to be completely random? Who wins? Well, what you get in this is actually a mixture of these two things. It's going to be sort of an equilibrium and random. What do I mean by that? What there's going to be is an equilibrium where we choose strategies randomly, and so therefore the winner is going to be random. So what you can think of as this. Here's the fronts. Here's front number 1. Here's front number 2. Here's front number 3. if I put all my troops on front 1, then I'd be taking a strategy here. Now that's a horrible strategy because that can be beat by just about anything. Right here in the center would mean I'm doing 33, 33, and let's say 34. So I'm sort of evenly allocating my troops. What you can show in Colonel Blotto is if I make a little like hexagon here, that you should just sort of randomly pick a strategy in here. If you randomly pick a strategy in here, there's nothing the other person can do to beat you. What they can do is basically have an expected value of 0. So what's going to happen is if you play this game, both players will randomly choose strategies in that space, and they're equally likely to win. So what we're going to get is we're going to get an equilibrium. The equilibrium is going to be we both randomly choose strategies, but the winner is going to be random. So if we think about Blotto, then we can ask, is winning at Blotto skill, or is it luck? Because that's something we've talked about in the past. Well, it depends on how you think of it. If you think of the number of troops as your ability, then if you've got more ability, you should have a better chance of winning because you've got more troops to move around. So if we're playing Blotto with different numbers of troops, and troops is representing our ability, then there's definitely some skill involved. Now, it's also true that allocating those troops is strategic. If I could figure out how you're going to allocate your troops for some reason, then my increase in strategic ability over you, my advantage, may enable me to beat you sometimes. But if you're playing a mixed strategy, if you're playing the equilibrium strategy, then there isn't any strategic ability. We can just cross this out, and it's all going to just come down to luck. So against really smart players, Blotto may well, with equal numbers of troops, Blotto's probably luck. With maybe one player who's smarter than the other, or one player with more troops than the other, then Blotto starts becoming more skill. But again, the interesting thing about Blotto is that anything can be beaten, you don't need all your troops, and it really comes down to trying to figure out where is that other person going to put their troops. And so what you want to do is not be understood. You want to be confusing to the other person, so you want to randomize. So it's an interesting game. All right, so that's the basic Blotto. Where we're going to go next is we're going to think a little bit more deeply about this idea of one side having an advantage and see what that means for the nature of competition. We're also going to talk about why Blotto's become interesting again, why there's been a renewed interest in Blotto. Remember, initially Blotto was about moving troops on battlefields, and that sort of fell out of favor. But we're going to see why this general insight about strategic mismatch has a lot to say about competition generally. All right, thanks.